lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you the summer books that I am reading at the moment, my to be read pile for June, July and August. I've got my little pile of books here. It's a combination of gardening books, I've got foraging books, poetry books, a little bit of fiction, and some nature diaries as well. I'm a real fan of nature writing and non-fiction. I've always loved reading non-fiction books. I love learning new things, so you will see that reflected in my book pile. But I hope you enjoy this video, and if you do, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and do head over and check out my Patreon page where you can become a supporter of this channel and access monthly live Zoom chats with me, and also there is day in the life vlogs that I upload every month as well. First up is this beautiful book by Mellisa Harrison. She is a nature writer, fiction writer, podcaster, and now a children's book author as well. And this book by Thorn really attracted me, first of all, because it's got such an incredible illustration on the cover. And I also love all of Mellisa Harrison's work, so I knew I would be interested in this. In the blurb it says, 3 little people, no bigger than your hand, wake up from their winter sleep in the hollow trunk of an old ash tree. Moss, burnet and cumulus usually love spring, but their joys turns to worry when they discover that cumulus, the oldest, is starting to fade away. And so they go on an adventure together, and there's a lovely map on the inside cover there, and there's no illustrations really. There's a couple of like little drawings at the beginning of each chapter, but very excited to read this, and the back cover is also just as pretty. And yes, I know this is a children's book, but I actually love children's fiction. Some of my favourite children's books are The Children of Green Now, The Little White Horse by Elizabeth Goudge. I mean, those books are my favourites. I love being transported into magical places through children's literature. Really fantastic. And actually I think I'll probably revisit The Children of Green Now, and there's another one as well that's quite similar, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. I'm going to hunt it down. I'm going to read those as well, because those sort of books really remind me of the summer holidays as a child, where I would read books lying out in the garden and just, yeah, be whisked away to another world. Next up is this beautiful poetry anthology edited by Eyeshdows, and it's called A Poem for Every Summer Day, and this has been a great way of consuming more poetry. For every single day in summer there are 2 poems, and what I love about this collection is there's a little introduction to each poem here, and that's really helpful. So it tells you a little bit of backstory either on that particular date or the writer or the poem. And yes, it's been fantastic. I'm not a huge poetry reader, so this has been really wonderful actually, and I've been enjoying it so much. And there's also the spring edition and autumn and winter editions of this as well, and just a lovely gift, and the cover is beautiful. It also works quite well for children. Most of the poems would be absolutely fine to read to children, and in fact this one does have quite a few lullabies at the start, so it seems to be quite child orientated. But yes, I think this is fantastic and I highly recommend the whole series. Next up is another Mellisa Harrison book, and it is The Stubborn Light of Things. This is her nature diary, and I believe that this is based on her podcast, which I have only recently discovered, and it's really good and very inspiring. So this starts off in the city and then it moves into the countryside, sort of going along on her journey from city life to countryside life. And her writing is just fantastic, really good, and I know I'm going to enjoy this so much. I've literally just purchased this, so I haven't dipped into it yet, but I have heard snippets of this on her podcast. This is the paperback version, and it's a bit cheaper than the hardback, but the hardback does have some lovely illustrations on the inner cover, so if you wanted to gift this I would advise going for the hardback. But otherwise the paperback is nice and light and easy to take with me when I'm going outside into the garden to read. So talking about children's literature and summer escapism, I absolutely have to read a pony story every summer. I was a pony crazy child growing up, and I used to devour these Pullein Thompson sister books so much. I read the whole series and I adored them, and I saw this one pop up on my Amazon recommended and I had to go for it. It's 6 Ponies by Joesphine Pullein Thompson. Now these stories I think are set in the 40s perhaps, could even be slightly earlier, and they are quite retro, so do bear that in mind. And there are some gender stereotypes which are quite annoying, but for me they are so reminiscent of an era. They really remind me of my childhood, and I will forever have a soft spot for the Pullein Thompson sisters and their incredible work. They wrote so many pony stories between them, and I think anyone who's been into ponies probably have read the Pullein Thompson sisters, and they are brilliant. Now, most of you will know that I'm a keen forager, and I do love a good foraging book, and I have two to show you today. The first one is a new pocket guide, which I've had my eye on for a while, and I'm so glad I got this. It's by Wild Food UK, Marlo Renton and Eric Begain. And this is actually one of the best foraging books I have seen, actually, because it has fantastic photos that are really clear. And then the common name, the Latin name, some places that you can find them, what parts are edible, habitat, foraging season, and a nice little description there. And yes, I just think this is a really good guide. It's very clear, concise. There's a lovely section on mushrooms at the back. I am not a mushroom forager, so it's not something I would go out and pick on my own without a guide, but I do find mushrooms fascinating. I think they are so beautiful, and I actually have just really enjoyed reading about them and looking at the pictures, and it's definitely piqued my interest. And I think in autumn I will definitely try and find a good foraging walk that's just completely about mushrooms and go to it, because I think it would be really, really interesting. But there's also a whole section on leafy things like wild garlic, chickweed, all that kind of thing, and blackberries, crab apples, the whole lot. There's a really good selection in this. Douglas fir. So it does, like I mentioned before, the hemlock and things like that, it does cover some poisonous ones too, which are obviously really important to know. And this is actually something that I imagine we will use quite a lot as a family. It's, like I said, it's very useful with the photos, so it makes a great book if you've got kids who are studying certain plants, botany, and I think, yeah, it's a really good buy. I do really, really recommend this if you are looking for a good foraging guide. This would be a nice one to add to your collection alongside a classic wildflower key. It's definitely one of the better ones I've seen on the market. Okay, so the other foraging book I got is a foraging cookbook, and it is Forage, Wild Plants to Gather, Cook and Eat by Liz Knight. Now, I follow Liz on Instagram, which is where I came across this book, and I was really, really excited to get my hands on a copy because I just knew from her Instagram it would be fantastic. Now, as you can see, it covers quite a substantial amount of plants. There's a whole section on trees, and it includes things like hawthorn, birch, oak, hazel, linden, shrubs and climbers such as gorse, rose, blueberry, blackberry, perennials like three-cornered leek, sorrel, nettle, and annuals like cleavers, fat hen, red dead nettle, and so on. And then each plant has a really nice description. That's really nice to read, actually. Her writing's really good. And then a little bit about where you can find the plant. Great illustrations that are very, very factual, which I love. I always think in foraging books it's great to have illustrations that are really true and not too stylized. And then she has good descriptive notes on them, which is fantastic. And then there's a whole section on the recipes. So for hawthorn, she's got hawthorn flour syrup, hawthorn bread and cheese toasted gremolata, hawthorn berry marinade, and then that's the next page with some spruce and some spruce recipes. So really wonderful. And I've looked through this, and actually I think what I like about this most of all is that her recipes are pretty unique. There are a few classics like elderflower fritters, but there's also some things that are really imaginative, like the elderberry and lavender jelly, pickled elder buds and gooseberry vinegar, which sounds amazing, wild blueberry soup or blabar sopa, sea buckthorn curd, tomato and three-cornered leek soup. I mean, everything sounds so delicious. And then for the dandelion, she's got sauteed dandelions, dandelion fugaza cake, and dandelion root coffee, which I love to make. So loads of fantastic things. Sorrel salsa verde, sorrel dal, sorrel and apple juice. I mean, really, really good. And again, I'm really glad I purchased this because, like I said, it's different recipes, something to really inspire the forager in you. And I mean, to me it's really encouraged me to be more adventurous with my foraged bakes and cooks, because you know, sometimes I pick things like 3-corner leek, wild garlic, and I either make remedies out of these things, or I will just do them really simple, like sauteed or juiced. But this book has definitely inspired me to be a bit more creative in the kitchen with my forage finds. So yes, a beautiful book. Highly recommend this for anyone who's keen on gardening or foraging and nature, because this is wonderful. Okay, so another nature read. I told you I liked my nature books. This is Rewild Yourself, 23 Spellbinding Ways to Make Nature More Visible by Simon Barnes. And this was the kind of book that was always coming up in my recommendations on Amazon, and eventually I gave in and I decided to get it, and I'm really glad I did. I think this is such a charming idea. The book is divided into 23 chapters, and each chapter is this spell to make you more connected with nature. So for example, the first chapter is the magic tree, and actually he's talking about buddleia and the way that buddleia attracts loads of species of butterflies, and that's the spell, so to speak. And then there's the snake charming spell, which is all about putting metal sheets, I think, something like that, in the garden, and then the snakes like to nestle underneath. There's also one on the magic trousers, which are actually waterproof trousers, and he talks about how fantastic they are at getting you more connected to nature, because you can go out in all weathers. And I have to say, I highly agree with that, because in autumn and winter and spring I cannot be without my waterproof trousers, and it makes such a difference. So I think I'm definitely on the same page as Simon Barnes, and I think this is a really fun, light-hearted read that really does give you ways of engaging with nature more. So yeah, a fantastic book, really good idea, and light-hearted and easy and quick to read. Another new book for this month is Floriography by Sally Coultard, and this book is illustrated by Clover Robin, who has the most prettiest illustration style, as you can see there. And I really got this for my research for my podcast, because I talk a lot about flowers and how they work in the home and with the seasons, and I thought this would be a lovely companion for it. So I've yet to really dive into it, but I'll give you an example. So there's a page here about hellebores, and there's a little quote, and then a little bit of facts about what they've been used for in the past. Some ideas of old remedies and folk stories with them. There's mugwort, again, there's like a little song that goes with it. Thistle, passion flower. So a bit like the idea of language of flowers. This is the kind of same idea, and it does say the myths, magic and language of flowers. I think this is actually really nice as a gift, because the illustrations are so nice. I mean, this is terrible to say, but I would almost be tempted to cut out some of the illustrations and frame them and get another copy, because they are that pretty. And yeah, I think this will be a really good book for me to research for my podcast, and also, like I said, it would make a beautiful gift because it is gorgeous. So yeah, love that. Finally, I have A Woman's Garden by Tanya Anderson of Lovely Greens. Now this book I was so excited for. I follow Tanya not only on her Instagram but on her YouTube channel Lovely Greens, which is fantastic, by the way. She lives on the Isle of Man. She's an American, and she has I mean, she's got so many great gardening tips, but this book really did resonate with me. I love the idea of a woman's garden in particular, and the idea of growing these plants and making all these beautiful things from the plants. So the book itself here is divided into the edible garden, and she has a section on the kitchen garden, edible flowers, culinary herbs, and then she's got health and beauty, so plants for skincare, herbal medicine, and then she's got a section on homes and crafts, so herbs for the home, natural plant dyes, and the crafty garden. And then within each section she's got a showcase garden, so a little bit about a certain gardener and their garden, and she features gardens all over the world, which is really nice. And then she's got some lovely pictures in it, and then some tips on a project, so for example creating a vegetable garden. And then a palette strawberry planter is another project for that section, growing salad greens, berries and different recipes, low maintenance edibles, and she has many charts throughout the book as well. That's a perennial vegetables to grow and hardiness temperature chart. And yeah, I think this is just lovely. Really nicely done. Herb embedded pasta, some facial skincare recipes, herbalist recipes. She's got candles, dyeing, loads of gorgeous, I think she's got soap in this too, loads of gorgeous things. This is so wonderful, and something, like I said, that really appeals to me. Like, this is why I garden. I like the idea of utilizing all the plants, growing things that are useful is really important to me. Even though as I get older I'm definitely becoming slightly more keen on the idea of a cut flower garden, but this whole concept is just completely up my street. There's Tanya on the back. Yeah, so lovely, really gorgeous and well done. And yeah, I am really, really excited to read more from this. I've dipped into this a good bit and I've really enjoyed it so far. And yeah, I think she's done a fantastic job, and definitely one for any woman in your life who also loves gardening. It is a beautiful book. So that's it for my summer reads so far. Now, I am sure that I will add many more books to my to be read pile over the coming months. So if I accumulate a nice pile, I'll definitely film another to be read book video to share with you what I'm reading. But at the moment, that's what's going to be keeping me entertained and inspired over the coming weeks. I really do enjoy reading and dipping into things and getting inspired and excited, and I think all the books I've got for the coming weeks are just perfect. A good mix of escapism but then practical nature inspiration too. So yeah, I am very, very much looking forward to reading all of those. But yes, I'd like to know in the comments below what you're reading, what you're loving for the season of summer. Definitely let me know in the comments below, because I love hearing your recommendations too. And if you enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and like I mentioned before, please do go and check out the Patreon community and see if you would like to join us there. It's a great way of building a community of like-minded people who love slow living and seasonality, and I think it's great fun over there, so do come join us. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back soon with another video. Bye!